Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again. As you know, we're at 18 trillion now. We're soon going to be at 20 trillion. According to the economists, who I'm not big believers in, but nevertheless, this is what they're saying, that 24 trillion, we're very close. That's when we become a country that's unsalvageable.
He sits on a throne made of fool's gold. A crown of lies is all he holds. Empty pockets line his parade, but the crowd still cheers for the charade. King of the grift, he takes and he takes, splitting his tails, leaving truth in the way. The poorer they are, the louder they sing. Hail to the thief who would call himself king. He built his castle on shifting sand, with paper walls and a sleight of hand. Promises crumble like dust in the air, yet they bow, they kneel, they don't seem to care. A golden cage, a hollow prize, they see the con but close their eyes. King of the grift, he takes and he takes, spinning his tails, leaving truth in the way. The poorer they are, the louder they sing. Hail to the thief who would call himself king.
Get my new book, Grifter in Chief, and everything else you need to protest the orange felon at ProfessorPry.com. For months now, we've been auditing Donald Trump's finances to find out how much he's profited from the presidency and how much he's stolen from taxpayers so far. Throughout his life, he's stolen from nearly everyone he's met, from contractors, the government, banks, investors, charities, and even his own family members during his father's funeral. We went through 79 years of financial records and court documents to track down over $8.4 trillion of transactions, billions of which went to the Trump family during his presidency. I realize that auditing financials and accounting doesn't always seem exciting, but throughout this story, you'll start to notice not only why Trump is so evil, but you'll start to realize we are all the ones who allowed it to happen.
Well, he may have a hit show right here on NBC and plenty of money in the bank, but Donald Trump's hotels and casino resorts are in deep debt to the tune of nearly $2 billion.
The casinos make less than 1% of my empire.
Time and again, government officials at the federal, state, and local level let Trump get away with murder. On the very rare occasions he was held accountable, someone else paid the bill, and Trump still made a profit. His entire life, he's had no consequences for anything, long before becoming president.
And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
But as reporters said ever since the Watergate scandal, follow the money. With Trump, the money tells the story of his life better than anything else, and that story begins in 1945. Donald Trump's mother, Mary Ann Trump, was an immigrant from Scotland, and his father, Fred, was an immigrant from Germany. Together they had 5 children, the 4th child being Donald Trump. The family was constantly in legal battles, long before Donald was born. Not only because Fred was a real estate developer, But in 1927, Fred was arrested for being a rogue member of the Ku Klux Klan at the Memorial Day Parade in Queens, New York. Just 2 months before Donald Trump was born, Adolf Hitler was pronounced dead, and World War II was winding down in Europe, but heating up in the Pacific Theater. When he was born on June 14, 1945, Donald Trump was already a millionaire, thanks to his father and a real estate deal with the city of New York. It was a deal barely anyone would know existed until 2021, when the contract was canceled. The Trump family controlled the use of ice skating rinks around the city, the Carousel in Central Park, and the Trump golf links at the Ferry Point Golf Course in the Bronx. New York City reportedly paid Donald Trump $17 million per year for the use of these areas. It was only after Trump committed treason by inciting an insurrection on the US Capitol in 2021 that New York City abruptly canceled this contract. This means for 75 years, Trump's family was bringing in $1.2 billion. When he graduated from high school, his father Fred lent him $10.6 million, 9.6 of which Donald admitted to in a sworn deposition in 2007, and the remaining million Trump later revealed in 2015.
My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. I came into Manhattan, and I had to pay him back, and I had to pay him back with interest.
But we cannot find any records of these loans being paid back at all, and turns out that small loan was $10.6 million. So when Donald went to the University of Pennsylvania and graduated in 1968, it wasn't like he was starting with nothing. He had a pretty good amount of investment to continue his father's legacy. To be fair, we found evidence that his father did pay for his $1,097 tuition to the University of Pennsylvania. While many have speculated that his father might have bribed someone to get his son into the school, there was no huge sum of money that we can find to prove this ever happened. On the surface, it appears Trump got into college by his own intelligence. Shortly after graduating college, in 1979, Donald Trump started construction on his first large real estate project. He set out to build the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey. But construction would take more than $220 million, and Trump didn't want to put any of his own money into the project. So he partnered with Harrah's Entertainment, which operated several casinos across the country. They provided $220 million to construct the building and paid Trump $24 million in what they called a construction management fee. While Trump never put any of his own money into the construction that we can find records of, Harrah's agreed that Trump would get half of the profits by just letting them use his name on the building. The next year, in 1980, a real estate company in New York City filed a lawsuit claiming they worked for Donald Trump but were never paid. A judge ruled in their favor and put a lien on Trump's properties for $1 million. Even after a court order, Trump reportedly never paid them, and the court never seized any of his property to pay for this $1 million order. Back in Atlantic City, Trump hired a cabinet builder named Edward Friel Company from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They were in business for at least 3 generations, and were well positioned to take on a large project. So Donald hired them to build the wooden bases for slot machines at his Trump Plaza casino. After completing the job, Trump never paid them a penny, leaving them on the hook for over $400,000 of materials they supplied to the casino. The cabinet builder sued Trump and won, but Trump continued never paying them a penny. After years fighting in court to get this money, in October 1989, the cabinet builder filed for bankruptcy, with the founder's grandson saying Trump hits everybody. According to his father's financial records, in 1980, Donald Trump received a payment of $90,000 from his father's trust fund. That same year, Trump hired an air conditioning and heating company in Plainview, New York, for work on his properties. After the job was completed, Trump never paid them. The company then sued for $75,000 and won in court, but Trump still refused to pay, and a lien was put on his properties. Again, the court never seized any of his property, and the HVAC company has yet to be paid a penny. In 1981, Donald received another payment from his father's trust fund for $214,605. In May 1984, he opened the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey. This casino would never be profitable, with much thanks to Donald Trump himself.
It'll take some time before everybody gets organized. It's very nice, but I'm disappointed.
The expectations of what else might come from this development are a lot lower. The casino industry has done little to reduce unemployment or to improve the quality of life for most people in Atlantic City. Another hotel can only worsen Atlantic City traffic. Congested streets around the casinos are becoming an all-day, most of the night problem for people who live here.
1 year after opening that first casino, Trump purchased the Hilton's casino for $320 million of his own money, calling it the Trump Castle. It was only 10 blocks away from the Trump Plaza and cannibalized the plaza's customer base. Harrah's Entertainment was so upset with this move, they sold Donald Trump their half of the original casino for $220 million and lost $24 million on the entire project. Across town, Resorts International was building a new casino called Taj Mahal, and Trump wanted it for himself. As any business person would tell you, owning 3 of the same type of business on one boardwalk is pretty stupid, but for a millionaire who didn't have to put up any of his own money, it was worthwhile because to him, it was free. Donald Trump fought with talk show host Merv Griffin for a controlling interest in Resorts International, but ultimately lost. Merv got Resorts International, a company that has grown to over $9.9 billion in profits last year and has $42 billion in assets, while Trump got the Taj Mahal Casino, which was still in construction. Taj Mahal was just 12 blocks away from the Trump Plaza, which means his 3 casinos on the boardwalk were all within 2 miles of each other, cannibalizing each other's business the entire time. Again, Trump did not have the money to complete such a large project, so he got private investment.
So first he said, I'm talking about banking institutions as to how he's going to finance it, not these junk bonds, which are ridiculous. Now you want to guess how he financed it? Junk bonds. Swear to God, literal. He then, after saying that, went and financed it with junk bonds that had a 14% interest rate.
Basically, you let a private company borrow your personal money and they pay you back with interest. Junk bonds are high risk, but they're also high reward, so you can stand to make a lot of money fast. Trump sold over $675 million in junk bonds at a 14% interest rate. This means he now owed $769.5 million just for Taj Mahal's construction. To be fair to Trump, after the casinos were built, he tried his best to get people to come and spend money. He even called the Taj Mahal the 8th wonder of the world. But still, casino tables went empty, and not nearly enough money was coming in the door. These lenders then came looking for their money, and the casinos went bankrupt for the first of many times. To satisfy these junk bonds, Trump ordered his casinos to take on even higher interest rate loans. Basically, he was taking out a bigger loan to pay off his smaller ones, and he kept doing this over and over, compounding the amount owed. A casino analyst at the time wrote that the Taj Mahal would need to bring in over $1.3 million per day just to pay the interest on loans, an amount no casino in the world has ever made. It was doomed from the start, especially considering all 3 of his casinos in Atlantic City only brought in a combined total of $58 million that year. After the Taj Mahal and the castle missed their November debt payments, Fred Trump sent a lawyer to the castle to buy $3.3 million in chips, giving his son a short-term loan. The casino commission later fined the castle $65,000 for this illegal loan. In the early 1990s, Trump went back to bankruptcy court again and narrowly avoided financial ruin by shifting the risk to stockholders and making the casinos public. Over the next decade, while other casinos worldwide made billions in profits, Trump's casinos in Atlantic City went bankrupt again. The casinos all posted losses each year in the millions, but still paid $300,000 to Trump to transport high rollers on his personal jet. Basically, investors were paying Trump to bring in high rollers, and Trump was pocketing a salary of over $1 million per year, no matter how much these 3 casinos lost. Eventually, the casinos went bankrupt for a 5th time. 2 of them were demolished, and Taj Mahal was sold for pennies on the dollar. Reportedly, none of his investors ever made their money back, let alone got a share of the profits. After the entire Atlantic City venture was completed, Trump owed over $3.4 billion to investors and the government. Meanwhile, he profited millions in Atlantic City. Skipping ahead to 1990, Donald hired a company called Atlantic Plate Glass Company for work on one of his properties. Again, when the work was completed, Trump never paid them, and again, they sued him for the contract worth $1.5 million. Rather than losing in court again, Trump's lawyers offered them a settlement of 30% of the original contract. After long negotiations, Trump agreed to pay them 70% of the original contract, meaning he only paid $1,050,000, and he still got a $450,000 discount on brutal manual labor at his properties. That same year, the New Jersey Casino Control Commission released a report that detailed Donald Trump's properties in their state, including 2 golf courses, 2 residential towers, and 3 casinos in Atlantic City. In that report, the commission outlined 253 subcontractors that Trump hired but never paid in full or on time. Some of these contractors went bankrupt as a result of never being paid for these large projects. The final amount Donald Trump still owes these 253 contractors is $69.5 million. In 1991, his father Fred sold shares of Trump Palace condos to Donald at considerably less than he purchased them. It was all in an effort for Fred and Donald to get a tax write-off that year. In 2024, the court ruled this to be fraud against banks, insurers, and others. Donald Trump was found liable for $355 million in disgorgement, which is a legal remedy that forces someone who profited from illegal or wrongful acts to give up those ill-gotten gains to the government. They also found him liable for $100 million in interest, since that $355 million would have accrued interest since 1991. After the court's decision, Donald Trump never paid the $455 million fine. So by the end of 2024, the court fined him another $45 million for failure to pay a court order. Trump still has yet to pay any amount on this, and taxpayers are still owed more than $500 million. As his father was getting older, Donald Trump knew each of his 4 siblings would be getting a large inheritance after their father passed away. In anticipation of this, Donald took out loans from each of his 4 siblings, totaling $30 million. However, when his father passed away in 1999, Fred only left all 5 of his kids $20 million total, meaning each child got $4 million each. But Donald already owed his other siblings $7.5 million each. We cannot find any evidence of this money being paid back to his siblings, so Donald Trump apparently stole from his own family over his father's grave. In 1998, he formed the Donald J. Trump Foundation, a nonprofit Trump said was meant to help people. From its formation in 1998 to 2008, Donald Trump donated $8.4 million to this foundation. However, the nonprofit only distributed a total of $2.8 million of this money, but not for its intended use.
I've talked to tax experts who said they've never seen anybody do anything like what he's done in the last few years, which is use the money in his charity to basically pay off the legal settlements of his for-profit businesses.
The documents also show Trump's foundation wrote a $100,000 check in 2007 to the Fisher House, which provides homes to injured veterans and their families, to settle a lawsuit filed by the town of Palm Beach against his Mar-a-Lago club. Trump's foundation also sent $158,000 to the charity of a man who sued in 2010 for withholding prize money after he scored a hole-in-one at one of Trump's golf courses. In another instance, Trump's foundation paid $10,000 at a charity auction in 2014 for a portrait painted of Trump. It was the second time Trump used foundation funds for a portrait of him.
In 2018, the government found evidence that Trump misused the foundation's money to pay for his own personal expenses, his business, and political purposes. Basically, Trump got a tax write-off for donating money to a charity and then used that charity's money to pay for his business. The foundation was forcibly shut down by the government, and Trump was ordered to pay New York State a $2 million settlement. While many people believe this court order banned Trump from ever operating a charity again, the truth is much more frustrating. Donald Trump is not officially banned from operating a charity again, even in New York State, where he was fined. Instead, any future charities he runs must be audited more frequently. It's a slap on the wrist when you consider he was still able to profit millions after funneling money through the charity. In 2004, Donald Trump began hosting a TV show called The Apprentice on NBC. The show ran until 2017 and paid Trump a total of $427.4 million. This is where Trump would get a majority of his fame and the ability to market himself as a great businessman. I would argue this show would later allow him to run for president and win on a platform of running the country like a business. A year later, in 2005, the US Department of Labor published a report that Donald Trump and his companies were cited 24 times for violating the Fair Labor Standards Act for not paying his employees minimum wage or overtime. It is unknown how much the government fined Trump for these violations or if he ever paid them.
Since going into real estate, his wealth, it's gone up and down over the years. But he always seems to manage to get back on top.
What we do know is Trump made a lot of money that year. While he was not paying his employees minimum wage, he reported to the IRS that he made $48.5 million that same year, after all expenses were paid. But this was before the tax overhaul, so back then he paid $38.6 million in federal income taxes, 79% of his income that year. But don't worry, he gets this money back a few years later. According to the IRS, Donald Trump filed his taxes again in 2006 and 2007, paying an additional $31.5 million. When you look at just 2005 through 2007, this adds up to Trump paying $70.1 million in federal income taxes. But in 2008, Donald Trump filed a tax return claiming he lost over $700 million in 1 year. As any business person would tell you, losing so much money in 1 year is genuinely hard to do, and as Judge Judy would say, it doesn't have the ring of truth to it. And any accountant would say, 1 year's losses mean nothing to the previous year's profits. But Trump thought he was special, so he sued the IRS, claiming he should be entitled to get that $70.1 million back from his 2005 through 2007 taxes to cover his 2008 losses. If any other company or business owner went to court for this same reason, our case would be thrown out before going to trial. But Donald Trump was eventually awarded the $70.1 million in a refund. Plus, the IRS was ordered to pay Trump $2.7 million additional for interest, with the court claiming the $70.1 million was just a loan that would have accrued interest in those 3 years. Not only did Trump get more than what he asked for, but the court decided he should get back his state and local taxes as well, totaling another $21.2 million. This means Trump got a tax refund in 2005 through 2008 for $94 million. In 2007, Donald Trump hired a real estate broker named Jennifer McGovern to help him with getting a property. After the sale was completed, Trump owed her $298,274 in commissions, but he never paid her. She eventually sued him and won, with a judge ordering Trump to pay, but it is unknown if she ever got reimbursed for any of this money. That same year, a dishwasher named Guy Dorsonville, who worked for Donald Trump, filed a lawsuit alleging Trump never paid him time and a half for overtime hours he worked in the past 3 years. He also alleged in the lawsuit that Trump failed to keep proper time records of all of his employees in an effort to swindle his way out of paying them for time they worked. Trump eventually settled the case out of court in 2008, agreeing to pay him $7,500. It was a small price to pay compared to the class action lawsuit that could have easily happened if other employees saw how much time Trump stole from their paychecks. In 2008, a law firm in New York City called Morrison Cohen LLP defended Trump against a construction contractor who claimed to do work for Trump but was never paid. Defending against that lawsuit cost more than $500,000. Most businessmen would simply pay the contractor rather than spend $500,000 to defend against paying them and still be ordered to pay them anyway. But you're forgetting that Trump operates under a different set of rules. Not only was he ordered to pay the contractor, Trump also never paid his own law firm either. So his own lawyers then sued Trump for their legal fees and won, but Trump still never paid either of them. A year later, in 2009, Trump hired another real estate broker named Ronna Williams, who worked for him from 2009 to 2012, helping him secure real estate deals. Even though she worked for him for 3 years, she never got paid a penny and later sued Trump in 2013 for $735,212 in unpaid commissions. Trump later settled with her out of court for an undisclosed amount of money. 2010 was quite possibly the biggest scandal of all for Donald Trump, as one of his companies went through a very public legal case. Remember in 2005, according to his federal tax returns, Trump made over $152.7 million that year. Well, a major part of that was Trump University. In May 2005, a man named Michael Sexton dreamt up an idea to create a business class to teach students how to be a real estate developer or a business person. And he thought, what better name to put on this service than Donald Trump? He went to Trump looking to pay him a royalty fee every time a student signed up, but Trump wanted to be the principal owner with 93% controlling interest. Again, Trump never paid a penny into the project, but wanted to make 93% of the profits. Immediately, the New York State Department of Education notified Trump that his courses were in violation of state law for using the term university without a license to operate as an accredited school. They offered no college credit, no grant degrees, nor did they ever actually grade or test any students to see if they learned anything at all. Records show 7,611 students signed up over the years for the course.
I think the biggest step towards success is going to be sign up at Trump University. We're going to teach you about business. We're going to teach you better than the business schools are going to teach you. And I went to the best business school. We're going to teach you better. It's going to be a shorter process. It's not going to involve years and years of your life. It's going to be less expensive, and I think it's going to be a better education.
6,000 of those students paid $1,500 each for a 3-day course, and over 1,000 of them paid anywhere from $10,000 to $60,000 per student. These higher tiers promised a photo op with Donald Trump himself, but instead got their picture taken with a cardboard cutout of him. Trump said in a commercial for the course,
and these are all people that are hand-picked by me,
but later said in a sworn deposition in 2012 that he never even knew who the instructors were. By May 2010, things were looking grim for the company. An investigation began into Trump University at the Consumer Protection Division of the Texas Attorney General, which at the time was Greg Abbott. The investigation quickly found that Trump swindled Texas residents out of more than $2.6 million. Funny enough, Greg Abbott was starting to think about running for governor at the same time, and to show his support, Donald Trump donated $35,000 to Greg Abbott's governor campaign. Then the investigation into Trump University was immediately over. They later claimed the ending of the investigation had nothing to do with the $35,000 donation to his campaign, but admitting it would be against FEC regulations. In an effort to get out of legal trouble, in June 2010, the company changed its name to the Trump Entrepreneur Initiative, or TEI for short, and finally stopped bringing in new students. It would later close entirely in 2011, but not before getting the attention of even more law enforcement. On August 24, 2013, New York State filed a $40 million civil suit against Trump, alleging he used illegal business practices and false claims. Trump likes to claim these investigations were political, but even Florida started an investigation into Trump University a month later in September 2013. By pure coincidence, their attorney general at the time was Pam Bondi. She announced they were considering joining New York in their lawsuit against Trump, and just 4 days later, the Donald J. Trump Foundation donated $25,000 to her re-election campaign. Suddenly, Florida's investigation was over. It would later take 3 years for a complaint to be filed with the IRS to investigate this as an illegal donation. Even after an exhaustive investigation where the IRS found this to be illegal, Trump was only fined $2,500 as a penalty. Later, Pam Bondi would join Trump's administration in 2019 for the first impeachment trial. There were also 2 class action lawsuits filed against Trump for this business, and Trump's lawyers eventually settled both of those cases out of court in 2017 for a total of $25 million. But by then, Donald Trump was president, and there's a different set of rules for him. It was later revealed that billionaire Phil Rufin, who owns Treasure Island and Circus Circus casinos in Las Vegas, paid Donald Trump $28 million right as this settlement was being made. But you should know, Mr. Rufin claims this was for back fees related to Trump International Hotel Las Vegas and not Trump University. So even when Trump finally gets caught red-handed and a court finally holds him accountable, someone else apparently pays the bill, and Trump still made a $3 million profit on the settlement. The most frustrating part of all was revealed in October 2014. Remember, Trump's courses were meant to teach you how to be a great business person. They charged up to $60,000 per person to show you how to succeed in business without really trying. But in 2014, a New York judge found Trump personally liable for operating the company without ever filing for a business license. At no point did any of Trump's lawyers file for a business license for Trump University, despite bringing in $44 million. In the end, Trump paid $25 million in settlements, $62,500 in bribes, and still profited over $40.9 million. Moving on from Trump University, in 2012, another law firm in Virginia named Cook, Hayward, Lee, Hopper, and Feehan sued Trump for $94,511 for their legal fees and won, but he failed to pay. In 2013, Donald Trump got into business with the federal government of the United States. The General Services Administration, sometimes abbreviated as GSA, is in charge of all construction projects in Washington, D.C., and they signed a contract with Donald Trump where they agreed to pay $250,000 per month to the Trump Organization for the next 60 years. In return, they would rent the old post office in Washington, D.C. It was a taxpayer-funded deal worth $180 million. In 2015, we were able to acquire copies of not only Trump's personal tax returns, but his many companies too. He claimed to pay $134,000 in charitable donations that year and paid $707,000 in federal taxes. But you should also know he brought in more than $53.6 million that year. That same year, he made this now famous speech announcing his candidacy for president. What becomes even more interesting is if you look at his companies, and Trump has many of them to shuffle his finances around in. These include DJT Holdings, Holdings Managing Member, LFB Acquisition, Acquisition Member Corporation, and more. We found all of their tax filings for 2015 through 2020. While on the surface, many of them seem normal, there were 2 that stood out to us when you finally put their filings side by side. First of which is DJT Holdings LLC. From 2015 to 2020, their gross revenue climbs higher and higher, but their cost of goods sold stays the same the entire time. The same goes for LFB Acquisition LLC. When their gross revenue jumps up and down drastically, their cost of goods sold stays the same, but that's a giant red flag to financial auditors. When you're selling more products or services and making more money, you need to buy more product to sell, so your cost of goods sold goes up with your revenue. Then when business slows down and you're not selling as much anymore, your cost of goods sold goes down too. There is almost no business in the world whose cost does not increase with more sales, but we cannot find any records of these companies being audited by the IRS for these red flags. In 2016, we would like to mention that Trump has claimed to donate over $1.1 million to charity that year, but you should also know that he brought in over $29.1 million and got a tax refund of $402,718. That same year, it was revealed by USA Today that over the past 3 decades, Donald Trump has been sued over 3,500 times after not paying contractors he hired at his properties, including some of the lawsuits we mentioned earlier. But 2016 was a big year for Trump as he was running for president and won in November. For a lot of politicians, running for office is more lucrative than actually winning or being in that elected office. To prove this is a system-wide issue and not just with Republicans like Trump, let's look at the liberal side first. When Representative Ilhan Omar, who serves Minnesota's 5th Congressional District, was running for office in 2019, her campaign paid a political consulting company named E Street Group LLC a total of $2.7 million. What makes the story interesting is the fact that E Street Group is a company solely owned by her husband. According to FEC regulations, it is perfectly legal to have your family members own a business that profits from your campaign. It is also perfectly legal for the candidate and their spouse to collect a salary during the campaign because running for office becomes their sole job. What's not normal is for the candidate to be so obscene with it. During his 2016 campaign, Donald Trump was proud to report that he brought in over $8.5 million from small donations and $2 million from other Republican fundraising sources to his personal business as income. These finances were reportedly never used for his campaign, but went directly in his pocket. None of these funds went to his wife or children. Instead, $10.5 million went directly to him as the candidate. According to Donald Trump's official website, he was hosting 5 rallies per week running for president from this 2015 announcement to November 2016's election day. This totals 360 rallies across the country. During a campaign, the candidate or their committee is responsible for paying the town or the city they're visiting reimbursement for expenses. For example, police have to work overtime beyond their normal duties to ensure everyone at a political rally is safe. Towns have to pay for road crews to control traffic, some cities have to pay for a building large enough to accommodate a large crowd, and so on. According to financial records of dozens of these towns and cities, Donald Trump has yet to compensate any of them for their expenses, and taxpayers were forced to pay an average of $125,896 every time Trump came to town. This resulted in a final bill in 2016 of $45.3 million. During the campaign, Trump was also dealing with yet another lawsuit. This time, 48 servers in his restaurants were suing Trump Miami Resort Management LLC for failing to pay them overtime after they catered a special event for his campaign. Eventually, Trump settled the lawsuit and paid 47 of them $800 each, and one employee $3,000. Donald also hired 2 painting contractors that same year for his Doral Golf Resort in Florida, but never paid them. The 2 contractors sued Trump and won, with a judge ordering Trump to pay them the $30,000 he owed, but Trump never paid. The contractors went back to court, and the judge ordered his Doral Golf Resort, worth $149 million at the time, to be put in foreclosure and sold at auction if the contractors were not paid their $30,000. but Trump never paid them, and his Doral Golf Resort remains open to this day. Basically, Trump called the judge's bluff, and the judge never followed through on his threat. In 2017, Donald Trump took office for his first term as president, and here is where the real money starts to flow. Sure, every president in recent years has made a salary of $400,000 per year and been happy with just that. But according to his federal tax returns, Donald Trump collected $16.2 million that year, paid $284,718 in federal taxes, and got a $4.4 million refund. But here is where foreign governments really start to be exposed. In May 2017, Donald Trump finally paid off a loan from LP Daewoo, a company with ties to North Korea. During his 2016 presidential campaign, Trump accrued nearly $20 million in debt from their company for use on his campaign. The FEC later reported that Trump never mentioned this in his campaign's financial disclosure filings. This is just the first of many times that foreign governments were found to directly finance Donald Trump's campaigns, interfering with our elections. As he entered office, it's normal for a president to do minor redesigns of the White House to reflect their personal style, but Trump ordered the US government to pay $2,500 for decorative palm trees at his Mar-a-Lago property in Florida. In his first year in office, Trump threw a private dinner for 30 of his private guests and highest campaign contributors. Normally, a president pays for their own meals like this, but Trump plays by a different set of rules. Worst of all, our Congress allowed it to go unchecked. The total bill was $7,700, meaning each plate was over $256, and US taxpayers paid for the entire party. Another night in the White House that year, Trump ordered the government to pay for over $1,000 of liquor so his personal staff could have a party. During his first and second year in office, the governments of China, Turkey, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates spent a combined total of $700,000 at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. to influence his decisions. Trump has said on multiple occasions that the White House is a downgrade for him, which is why he likes to spend a majority of his time at his Mar-a-Lago property in Florida. This is also where a majority of his money comes from. From 2017 to 2020, he visited his own properties 547 times, including 145 trips to Mar-a-Lago. During these trips, he spent a total of 669 nights at his own properties during that first term in office. You would assume any reasonable person would do anything they could to ensure they had proper security in place. Many business people and leaders donate everything their security team needs because without that team in place, their life would be in danger. In order for the president to be safe, a team of 300 Secret Service agents and 75 additional staff are assigned to accompany the president on any trip. But when Trump goes to his own properties, he forces these 375 staff members to stay at his own hotel. By federal law, Secret Service are only allowed to spend up to $201 per room per night for hotels. And any other business person in that situation might just donate the rooms because it's his life they are protecting. But Trump was charging them $1,185 per room per night. He claimed that the increased amount was due to increased demand. When he goes to Florida, foreign governments and MAGA fans want to stay there too, and Secret Service are taking a room away from other paying customers. But the person in charge of finding them rooms is hired by Donald Trump, so his property is the only option. Even if 375 staff members doubled up in rooms, it still means they required 188 rooms for 669 nights at this increased rate. For rooms alone, this meant more than $149 million of income to Trump's family. But those rooms are only for Secret Service agents and other staff. Trump needed a room for himself as well. Rather than staying in his own hotel for free, knowing he's making $149 million down the hall, Trump wanted to rent his own suite out to himself. Federal reports show that Donald Trump charged the US government $2,600 per night for his own suite. This added another $1.7 million to his family's wealth. Those Secret Service agents and staff needed way more than just an empty room, though. On any trip, those 375 staff members are given a certain amount of money per day to cover their food and other trip-related expenses. This is called a per diem amount. For federal workers, per diem is set at $68 per day per employee. But Trump wanted some of this money too, so he made his restaurants and staff available for all 375 federal employees. In total, that meant an extra $17 million to the Trump family. You might have also heard that Donald Trump likes to play golf a lot. During his first term in office, he spent 261 days playing golf, which is one round of golf every 5.6 days, or about 18% of his time as president. When you consider the president's salary is $400,000 per year, this means we paid him $286,000 to play golf. To be fair, Trump was making a lot more money from his Secret Service while playing golf, though. To make sure he was safe on his own golf courses, the Secret Service was ordered to rent golf carts from the Trump Organization. However, regular golf carts just didn't perform fast enough in emergencies. Secret Service was ordered not to buy brand new ones, but instead upgrade Donald Trump's golf carts so they can go faster to get Trump out of harm's way if needed.
I like your car because it always goes extra fast.
These carts are very fast.
They're very fast.
My carts are very fast.
Congressional reports later revealed these rentals and upgrades cost over $500,000 per round of golf, and Trump played golf 261 times. In his first term alone, this meant a final bill of $134.8 million. You might have also heard that taking bribes is against federal law, and taking money from foreign governments in exchange for something in return is called quid pro quo. But the U.S. Oversight Committee, led by Republican Congress members at the time, revealed that during his first term in office, the Trump Organization or Trump himself received cash donations from over 150 foreign actors to buy influence over his decisions as president. The U.S. Congress reported that from 2017 to 2020, this totaled over $15.6 million of bribes to Donald Trump. On top of that, Donald Trump himself admitted that his companies reported over $1.6 billion of outside revenue during his first term. But that's far from the only revenue he made that year. 143 members of Congress also visited Trump properties a total of 361 times, taking with them a small staff of employees every time. All of them needed rooms, per diem, and events. This created another $2.6 million of revenue for Trump's companies. Congress members were not the only ones trying to curry favor with Trump at the same time. Special interest groups, political parties, and foreign governments paid the Trump Organization to hold 33 events at his properties for political influence during that first term. Financial experts estimate this allowed Trump's companies to profit over $660,000 or more. According to Trump's federal tax returns from 2017 to 2021, he received his $400,000 a year salary for being president. He promised his supporters that he would donate every penny of this salary to nonprofit organizations, and we actually did find evidence of him keeping that promise for the first 3 years. However, certified public accountants, or CPAs for short, ran the numbers and realized that making donations of that size would gain a lot of money in tax refunds. By giving away $400,000 of taxpayer money, Trump received $148,320 of that back every year. So it wasn't like Trump just wanted to help a charity, he also enriched himself at the same time. Near the end of 2018, Donald Trump was in a financial debate with Congress. He wanted Congress to pay $5.7 billion for a wall on the border with Mexico, a wall Trump promised his supporters that Mexico would pay for in full before getting elected. But Congress refused to pay for the wall, and this stalemate caused the US government to shut down for 34 days. The US Congressional Budget Office reported this shutdown cost taxpayers over $11 billion from December to January. After months of negotiation, by February 14, 2019, Congress agreed to pay $1.375 billion for 55 miles of steel fencing along the border. The next day, Trump declared a national emergency to fund the remainder of the $5.7 billion anyway. Taxpayers were left with a bill of over $16.7 billion and a border wall that was never completed. Shortly after this government shutdown, Donald Trump filed his taxes for the previous year. In 2018, Trump made more money than he did in ages. He profited over $36.7 million that year. After tirelessly running through his financials for months, I thought, finally Trump pays his fair share. But no, not only did Trump only have to pay $2 million in federal income taxes that year, but he got nearly a $10 million refund. This means he was only taxed at 8.5% of his income. Keep in mind, middle-class Americans, like most of us, are taxed at 20% of our income for federal taxes, and another 10% for state and local taxes. Trump only paid 8.5% and somehow still got a $10 million check out of it. It's so infuriating to think that tax laws across the US are so friendly to the rich by feeding off of the middle class and the poor. We constantly hear stories popping up in the news like Amazon.
Amazon paid no taxes federally on $11.2 billion in profits in 2018. In fact, Amazon actually had a negative federal tax rate last year. Amazon receiving a refund of $129 million last year, which works out to a negative tax rate. Now consider that the poorest 20% of American households paid 1.5% federal tax on average a couple of years ago, okay? Amazon, with $11 billion in profits, paid a negative 1% tax rate.
These systems are designed and sometimes even written by the wealthy to hoard as much money as possible. That's why so many rich executives give Trump meaningless awards, because he delivers results for them, and a meaningless gift is cheap in comparison to the taxes they would have to pay. This is best exemplified in December 2018, when Trump proposed and passed the new tax law. Billionaire friends of Trump would see an increase in their refunds, but the US Congressional Budget Office said that Trump's new tax law would cost American taxpayers $1.9 trillion. In 2019, these tax laws allowed Trump to line his pockets with even more cash. After bringing in over $2.9 million that year, he got a $10.6 million refund. But I would argue the most amount of red flags I've ever seen on a federal tax return comes in 2020. According to Donald Trump's filings, he lost nearly $4.8 million that year, but somehow paid $271,973 in federal income taxes. Any accountant can tell you that you only pay taxes if you make a profit, so this alone is ringing alarm bells already. But in a year that he supposedly loses $4.8 million, the federal government gave him a $13.5 million refund. This means his federal tax rate was negative 5.67%. Interestingly, Donald Trump continued telling his supporters that year that he was donating his entire presidential salary to nonprofit organizations. However, on his 2020 federal income tax return, Donald Trump admits under oath that he made $0 in charitable contributions that entire year. It's important for us to note that a majority of the money that Trump gets from the federal government, foreign actors, and other revenue sources doesn't come to him directly. You might see Trump claiming he only made $2.9 million in 2020 and wonder where all the Secret Service money went. But remember, that money goes to Trump's organizations, companies, and gets spread out over multiple different accounts around the world. In 2020, Donald Trump was running for president again. Running for office meant another 5 rallies per week across the country. Again, Trump was responsible for reimbursing towns and cities for their police, road crews, and stadiums. But again, he never paid. Instead, he claimed that because he was president at the time, all of those stops were something small towns should be happy to pay for. The total bill ended up being $130.9 million. After the November election was over, Donald Trump lost by over 7 million votes. But this time, he never gave up the idea that he won the election, because frankly, his ego could not handle the loss.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
You would assume a millionaire like Trump, who just profited so much from the presidency, would be able to afford some legal fees to fight something that he genuinely believed was his victory. Instead, yet again, someone else came in and paid the bill for him. This time it was the Deutsche Bank from Germany. You should know Donald Trump lent money from them in the past, and he defaulted on their loans, never paying them back a penny. But still, in November and December 2020, they had lent Trump another $300 million with a 12% interest rate, so he can fight the election results. The senior banker at Deutsche Bank resigned shortly after, citing their objection to lending Trump the money after he defaulted in the past. But to date, we cannot find any record of Trump paying them a penny for the $368.7 million he owes them. On January 6, 2021, Donald Trump gave a speech in Washington, D.C., ahead of Congress certifying the votes from the 2020 election. Overwhelmingly, U.S. voters decided Joseph Biden would be our next president, but Donald Trump was adamant that the election was stolen from him.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft.
Trump's team filed 64 lawsuits alleging voter fraud. Trump's own team withdrew 14 of those lawsuits in court. Judges dismissed 20 of them for lack of evidence, and 29 of them failed after being fully tried on the merits of the case. The final of those lawsuits did find 6 people across the country voted twice in the 2020 election, but all 6 of them were registered Republicans who claimed to vote for Donald Trump twice.
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
The crowd was even heard chanting to hang the Vice President, Mike Pence, who they just got done voting for. Donald Trump then went back to the White House. His crowd went to the Capitol, and Trump joined most of us around the world watching our television as 2,500 of his fans attacked Capitol Police, and his own vice president was evacuated from the building seconds before the rioters stormed the chambers of the House. Trump supporters destroyed much of the Capitol building that day with over $2.7 million of damage. 2 pipe bombs were placed at the Democratic and Republican National Committee headquarters, but luckily never exploded. Still, Trump refused to send the National Guard in to stop the attack because, frankly, it was his army doing the damage.
This is now effectively a riot.
1349 hours declaring it a riot.
Officer Brian Sicknick was assaulted by Trump supporters that day and died the next day on January 7th from his injuries. 4 other officers died by suicide in the days following the attack, citing their loss of purpose. Their life's work was to protect the Capitol, and their president just sent a mob to overthrow it. Even though Donald Trump continued saying that he backs the blue and supports the police, none of those 5 officers received any workers' compensation for their deaths. There was one rioter who was shot and killed that day named Ashley Babbitt. Capitol Police heard on their radios that pipe bombs were left at the DNC and RNC headquarters. They all saw and heard rioters holding deadly weapons and threatening police lives. Barricaded against a door, another rioter storming the Capitol broke a window in a doorway. The rioters could be heard yelling that Capitol Police were aiming guns at that door. After all, their lives were in grave danger, and anything to come would be self-defense in a territory governed by middle ground laws. This means officers have a right to retreat if they can, but also have the legal right to shoot and kill if they are backed into a corner and their lives are in danger. According to the FBI, Ashley began to climb through the shattered window with the help of 2 other people hoisting her up. Critical to the case, she was brandishing a paraforce knife. After repeated warnings, a police officer shot and killed Ashley Babbitt in what even Congress has ruled as the officer not having any choice but to shoot. The Metropolitan Police Department of DC and the United States Department of Justice investigated the incident and determined the shooting was lawful and within department policy. The officer was cleared of any charges. On April 16, 2021, Ashley's family started a crowdfunding campaign on the extremely far-right website GiveSendGo for help financing a wrongful death lawsuit against the Capitol Police. It raised over $462,000, even though the officer was already cleared of any wrongdoing. On May 19, 2025, the US government agreed to pay Ashley's family $4.975 million in a settlement, even though Ashley was the one who threatened a police officer's life. According to the US Government Accountability Office, the January 6th riot, orchestrated and led by Donald Trump, cost taxpayers $2.7 billion in total. To overturn the election in his favor, you might assume Trump would have paid for the rally on January 6th, but there were actually 4 dark money groups that fronted the bill for the attack. These 4 include the Women for America First, Rule of Law Trust, Tea Party Express, and Turning Point USA, which was led by Charlie Kirk. First, let's start with who financed these dark money groups right before the attack. Most notably is Sheldon Adelson, who was the CEO of Las Vegas Sands. He gave $90 million to these dark money groups ahead of January 6th, but he died of cancer 5 days after the attack on the Capitol. Richard Uline, who owns Uline Packaging Products, gave $4 million. Other donors include Vital Pharmaceuticals, who makes energy drinks, Agro-Industrial Management, which makes food processing equipment, America's Export Corporation, Semchi Rice Products, and 3 sugar manufacturers, including Fanjul Corporation, New Hope Sugar Company, and Osceola Farms. But financing these dark money groups, pushing the big lie, doesn't mean these companies knew they were funding an attack of this scale on our capital. They knew they were funding bad things, but might not have known they were funding treason on the United States. The direct money comes from even darker shell organizations. Turning Point Action, Charlie Kirk's organization, not only paid for 80 coach buses to transport Trump supporters into and out of Washington that day, costing more than $80,000 or more, but they also donated $1.8 million to an even darker money group called the Conservative Partnership Institute, which worked for months on social media to promote spam about the election being stolen to a targeted audience. Another big donor was Julie Jenkins Fancelli, who is the heir to the Publix supermarket chain. She gave $300,000 to Women for America First the week before the attack. And key Trump campaign fundraiser Caroline Wren facilitated the $3 million payment to the National Park Service for the permit required to hold the rally. Caroline Wren even listed herself as the VIP advisor for the entire event. Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point Action, spent another $1 million to hire social media influencers and students to join the attack in order to film and record it while it was happening. Apparently, in Charlie Kirk's infinite wisdom, he heard about overthrowing the US government and trying to overturn an election, but his first thought was to make sure they record themselves doing it. His goal was to have these influencers videotape the entire event and provide the footage to Turning Point USA. They would then use that footage to run a nationwide ad, quote, educating millions about the significance of January 6th for Trump. For the record, Some of these hired cameramen were tried and convicted using some of the footage they recorded that day as evidence, but Charlie Kirk never went to jail. While the attack was taking place, another $228,333 was being spent by American-made Media Consultants LLC, which funneled this money into text messaging the rioters during the event to ensure they kept fighting. Overall, more than $2.8 billion was spent that day trying to overthrow democracy in Donald Trump's favor, but we cannot find any records of Trump himself paying a penny before or after the attack. Over the next few days, Donald Trump was impeached for a second time by the House of Representatives, but was never held accountable by the Senate, so he remained in office until January 20th. Over the next 6 months, at least 15 visits were made by 7 different former cabinet members to Trump properties. These trips were made with a full staff and were reportedly paid for by the US government, totaling $495,375. In mid-2021, the Republican National Committee agreed to pay $1.6 million for the legal bills for Trump trying to overturn the 2020 election. In the end, he lost every single one of those cases, but the RNC paid the bill for him anyway. Again, you'll notice he starts a giant war and someone else pays the price. In November 2021, Donald Trump releases a new book called Our Journey Together. The book is a collection of photographs taken by a White House photographer during Trump's first term in office. Since US taxpayers paid for this photographer's salary, all of the images are technically owned by the taxpayers. But Trump is still selling this book for $75 per copy anyway, and in the first 2 months of it being published, Trump received $20 million in royalties. After he left office, Donald Trump is authorized by Congress for a pension of $226,300 per year for the rest of his life, as long as he is not serving as president. For 2021 through 2025, this means he profits another $905,200. From the time he left office in 2021 to when he returned for office in 2025, Trump spent 1,460 nights at his own properties. He continued to have 100 Secret Service agents assigned to him, who all got rooms in Trump hotels, per diem, and protected him, playing 260 rounds of golf. In total, this cost taxpayers an additional $230.8 million, much of which went to companies owned by Donald Trump. Skipping ahead to February 2022, Mazars' accounting firm, who handled Trump's accounting for years, said they no longer trust the information provided to them by Donald Trump and would no longer serve as his accounting firm. Later in the same month that his accounting firm said they don't trust him, Axos Bank loaned Trump $100 million using his Trump Tower property in New York City as collateral. The loan had a 4.25% interest rate over 10 years, so Trump now owes $122.9 million. A few months later, in May 2022, Axos Bank loaned Trump another $125 million using his Doral Golf Resort as collateral. The loan was set at a 4.9% interest rate over the next 10 years. This means Trump now owes $158.3 million. Later in the year, Trump signs a deal with Dal Al Arkan, a Saudi Arabia company, to build new projects in Oman, Dubai, Jeddah, Riyadh, and Doha, Saudi Arabia. This deal gives Donald Trump $105.8 million. You might remember in 2013, Trump received $180 million from the U.S. General Services Administration for renting the old post office to them in Washington, D.C. Just 9 years into that 60-year contract, Trump sold it to another private investor for a $100 million profit. It is unknown how much of the $180 million Donald Trump kept to himself after that sale. In 2022, Trump announced his own social media site, Truth Social. The site allows foreign governments to advertise and funnel their money into Trump's personal finances. It also allows Trump to announce major policies and news, which inflates its stock price. When it comes online, it immediately becomes worth over $25 million. That same year, Trump begins selling Trump Cards, an NFT company where customers buy digital trading cards that are made up of AI-generated images of Trump. So far, Donald has collected over $14.4 million in royalties from this company. By 2023, the U.S. House Oversight Committee released a report on Donald Trump's first term in office. They found Trump received many unreported gifts from foreign governments and leaders. By law, any gifts given to a president during their term in office are the sole property of the U.S. federal government. If a president wants to keep any item, they are either allowed to borrow it for a contracted amount of time after they leave office, or buy it at a rate determined by a professional appraiser. Trump did neither of those options and just kept these gifts without asking permission. Saudi Arabia gave him $45,000 worth of gifts, Japan gave him golden golf clubs, India gave him $47,000 worth of gifts, and other governments gave a total of $7.8 million in just straight up cash bribes. In the last 9 months of 2023, Save America Super PAC paid $39 million to cover more of Donald Trump's legal fees to continue fighting the results of the 2020 election. So after 3 years, billions of dollars, and an insurrection later, they still weren't over the results of the 2020 election. In January 2024, Donald Trump was found liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. He was ordered to pay her $5 million in damages in a civil court, but Trump kept claiming that he never abused her after he was found guilty in a court of law. He kept harassing her and pushing his audience to harass her as well. E. Jean Carroll then took him back to court, and the court found Donald Trump liable for $83.3 million for additional damages. In total, Trump legally owes her $88.3 million now, but never paid her a penny. Later in 2024, Trump announced his biggest grift yet, called World Liberty Financial. This is a company owned by the Trump family and sells cryptocurrency. Its main product is a crypto token that allows customers to vote on what the company does in the future, called a voting token. When it was founded, World Liberty Financial said Donald Trump would get 75% of the proceeds from any sale. From 2024 to when Trump entered his second term in office in January 2025, the company brought in over $550 million. This means Donald Trump pocketed $412.5 million just by putting his name on this product. That same year, Trump's sons Eric and Donald Trump Jr. were found liable in a court of law to have defrauded banks, insurers, and others. They were each ordered to pay $4 million in fines, but we cannot find any record of either of them paying the $8 million owed to taxpayers. Towards the end of 2024, Donald Trump grifted a lot of different products and received a lot of royalty payments for doing so. While he continued to receive royalty payments after this, we know that during 2024 alone, Trump received $1.3 million from his God Bless the USA Bible. This book included the Constitution and amendments, but oddly they forgot to mention the amendments that allowed African Americans or women the right to vote. His book would later be mandated to be in every classroom in all schools across Oklahoma. Trump buys it from China for less than $3 per copy and sells it for more than $60 per copy. Trump also sold sneakers and fragrances that year, adding $2.5 million to his personal wealth. Trump watches brought in $2.8 million, and Trump's Save America book, which is his way of profiting off of the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, that killed a firefighter, brought in $3 million more. According to Donald Trump's official website, he hosted political rallies 5 times per week from when he left office in January 2021 to when he returned for office in 2025. This totals 208 rallies held across the country. According to the towns and the cities he held these political rallies in, Trump still owes their taxpayers nearly $26.2 million. When he entered office for the second time, Donald Trump was spending most of his time in Florida at his Mar-a-Lago property. Elon Musk, who was the director of a new program called Doge, visited Trump's properties on the taxpayer's dime. This cost more than $26,000. Speaking of Doge, it was a program set up to find government waste and cut spending, which I think we can all agree there is some waste in the government. But instead, it cost taxpayers more than what it saved. According to the Republican-controlled Congress and the Nonpartisan Partnership for Public Service, it would ultimately cost taxpayers more than $135 billion in putting employees on paid leave, rehiring mistakenly fired workers, and more. When you just look at the IRS, which regulates and audits financials to ensure everyone is paying their fair share in taxes, they estimate Doge cost them another $395 billion thanks to decreased enforcement and compliance. Elon Musk and Donald Trump claimed Doge saved taxpayers $214 billion, but not even financial auditors could verify that Doge saved more than 5% of that claim. So at best, they saved $10.7 billion, but spent $530 billion to do it. When he took office in 2025, Donald Trump also ordered taxpayers to pay for a $1.75 million overhaul to the White House, including new furniture, rugs, office decor, and more. In the first year of his second term, he stayed at his own properties another 198 nights, more than half of the year. Again, taxpayers were forced to pay for 375 staff members' rooms, per diem, and Trump's own suite. This meant another $49.6 million to Trump's companies. Trump also continued to play golf for another 124 days in his first year of his second term. That meant another $135,000 billed to the taxpayers for his vacation time, and another $64 million in Secret Service expenses that were paid to the Trump Organization. In 2025, state government officials from Florida visited Trump properties 17 times, bringing a small staff with them and needing events. This meant another $123,845 of revenue for Trump. During the first 6 months of 2025, 19 countries also visited Trump properties to influence his decisions as president. This helped Trump generate another $1.9 million of revenue. Donald also earmarked $40 million of taxpayer funds to build a National Garden of American Heroes that will include 250 statues. For the record, according to many artists who built statues for the government before, these would be the most expensive statues the US government has ever contracted to build. In May 2025, Qatar donated a Boeing 747-8 to Donald Trump. His administration would later say that it was donated to the military for use as Air Force One, but it would later be given to Trump's personal library without Trump paying for it. This means it's a $400 million bribe to Donald Trump. After that plane made its way to the United States, Secret Service needed to ensure there were no listening or tracking devices on it. Plus, they needed to make upgrades to ensure it operates nearly the same as Air Force One. While these upgrades are not complete at this time, so far these upgrades have cost taxpayers over $5 billion. On June 14, 2025, Donald Trump hosted a military parade in Washington, D.C., modeled after Russia's victory parade. It served no real purpose, and every military official who could spoke out against it, saying it had no real purpose other than to serve Trump's ego.
It's going to cost a little bit of money, but we're getting training value out of this, but also we get to tell our story.
Some of the heaviest equipment was brought in from Fort Cavazos in Texas. It was transported by rail before being transferred to trucks and staged near the National Mall. The Army declined to say how much this effort cost. The Army also had uniforms produced to replicate what troops wore going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, though the Army didn't respond to questions about the cost.
Ultimately, it cost taxpayers more than $45 million in military costs and repairs to the roads. When traveling anywhere, the president can't just get on Air Force One on the lawn of the White House. The president boards Air Force One at Joint Base Andrews, so they need a helicopter, called Marine One, to safely get the president back and forth between the military base and the White House. Use of this helicopter is normal. What's not normal is using it for personal business trips. In 2025, Donald Trump has cost taxpayers over $70.8 million using this helicopter for personal and business trips with nothing to do with government business. He has not reimbursed the taxpayers for these expenses. Please keep in mind the sole purpose of Marine One is to transport the president to Air Force One, but Marine One only costs $16,700 per hour to operate for this short trip inside of Washington, D.C. The plane Trump then gets on, called Air Force One, costs $200,000 per hour to operate and takes him on much longer flights. So we know the shorter flight cost $70.8 million for these personal and business trips. We don't know how much the larger bill is for Air Force One yet, but we can safely estimate this is equal to or greater than the Marine One flight bill. In July 2025, Trump passed what he called the Big Beautiful Bill, which was essentially just an overhaul of the tax system to allow billionaires to keep more of their money while working class people paid more. The Congressional Budget Office, controlled by Republicans, keep in mind, said Trump's new tax law will cost taxpayers more than $4.46 trillion over the next 10 years.
Republicans were looking for ways to get more money for their priorities. So they were able to say, okay, well, we'll just take the agencies we like and favor and that Trump wants more money for, ICE, Customs and Border Protection, Homeland Security, the Defense Department, missile defense, those kinds of things, and shipbuilding, and just plus those up and add up several $100 billion that are going to all of those things.
It's going to add much more to the debt. And so I think without question, this is not a fiscally conservative bill.
In 2025, Donald Trump demanded a settlement from the Department of Justice because over the years, the DOJ has investigated him for his obvious illegal actions. I realized to Trump he thinks everything he does is perfect because so far, he's never been held accountable for his actions. But Trump still demanded the DOJ pay him $230 million anyway. Speaking of illegal actions, during his second term in office, Donald Trump has enriched himself using his properties in the Persian Gulf. He forced taxpayers to front the bill for using his personal properties for government business and trade deals. This meant taxpayers signed a $320 million check to Donald Trump. Most of us have heard of insider trading, where someone in power purchases stock in a company or sells stock right before a large decision goes through. But in October 2025, Donald Trump silently purchased corporate and municipal bonds from tech companies, banks, and retailers, all of which stood to gain from his policies as president. Then he profited over $337 million from these decisions. In 2025, Donald Trump also destroyed the East Wing of the White House to build a ballroom. The rubble from the East Wing was taken to a golf course in Washington and used to build a new golf challenge. After the demolition was completed, Trump had a falling out with a contractor because, again, he never paid them for the work they performed. So at the time of this recording, there is still a pile of rubble sitting next to the White House with no plans to build anything. Meanwhile, taxpayers paid Trump to do the project at a cost of $350 million so far. Across the country, Donald Trump has deployed National Guard service members to protect American cities that have relatively low crime rates. You'll notice many of these cities have a high percentage of Black, Mexican, and other racially diverse populations.
This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals.
But still, Trump thought cities like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Chicago, St. Louis, Memphis, New Orleans, Los Angeles, Oakland, San Francisco, and Portland needed protection anyway. You should know the mayors and governors of those areas reportedly said they do not want or need any of Trump's help. Still, troops have been deployed to these cities for hundreds of days at a cost of over $1 million per day per city. So far, this has cost over $1.2 billion, and National Guard service members are mostly just picking up trash. In November 2025, Donald Trump ordered the US government to be shut down again because he wanted his budget passed. Congress did not agree with weeks of negotiations. Trump wanted to cut federal programs like Medicare and Medicaid, but Democrats wanted to keep these programs in place. In the end, the government shutdown cost taxpayers $92.1 billion. This is aside from the $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, stopping the poorest of Americans from getting health care. In 2025, special interest groups, political parties, and foreign governments paid the Trump Organization to hold more than 49 events at his properties for political influence. These events are estimated to have profited Trump another $980,000. The same year, Trump's sons Eric and Donald Trump Jr. set up a Bitcoin company called American Bitcoin, which they own 2/3 of, with another party named Dominary owning the remaining third. Their goal was for this company to invest in other Bitcoin companies, but they didn't want to put in any of their own money to do it. If this sounds familiar, it's exactly what Donald Trump did when he was their age, so it's good to know the cycle is continuing in the next generation. A month after they started this company, another Bitcoin company called Hut 8 invested $100 million in Bitcoin mining equipment. In exchange for their investment, Hut 8 would own 80% of the company. This means Trump's ownership went from 66% to 13%, and now their cash value is $13 million, which they can cash out at any time. In their infinite wisdom, Trump's sons also took the time to make a video inside of their Bitcoining mining warehouse. In that video, they show everyone the exact hardware they're using, so hackers have started to use that information to infiltrate their network. It's a terrible cybersecurity mistake to ever show the hardware you're using, especially when you're holding currency on that hardware. Donald Trump Jr. also took this time to partner with 1789 Capital, thanks to his father being president. That company pays him a $200,000 yearly salary, plus the partners split a 20% commission on accounts he brings in. Thanks to his father being president, that account is doing pretty well with over $1 billion of sales so far. This means the Trump family profited more than $19.6 million from this venture with 1789 Capital in just their first year alone. In 2025, Donald Trump also announced the creation of a private club in Washington, D.C., called the Executive Club. Donald is the sole benefactor, and for your annual fee, you get to spend time with the president. The club required 20 initial members to pay $500,000 each. Another 180 members paid $100,000 each. This meant Trump pocketed another $28 million. You might have also heard Amazon is coming out with a documentary in January 2026, on the same day this documentary is premiering, about Trump's third wife, Melania. Amazon is paying the Trump family $40 million for the rights to make the movie. A deal you may not have heard about happened in Vietnam. Their government signed a deal in 2025 to build a new golf resort named Trump International, Hung Yen, and paid the Trump family $5 million per year for the next 10 years to license his name. Again, someone else is paying to build an entire project, but they're paying Donald Trump to put his name on their hard work. Vietnam claims this is not meant to influence Trump's decisions, but $50 million goes a long way in helping tilt the scale anytime a decision needs to be made. Not to be left out, United Arab Emirates funneled money through their Aqua One Foundation to announce it would spend $100 million on voting tokens in World Liberty Financial, Donald Trump's cryptocurrency company. Remember, when someone buys voting tokens in that company, Donald gets to keep 75%, so they are essentially just bribing Trump with $75 million. UAE also announced they purchased $2 billion in stablecoin in World Liberty Financial. This money is then used to invest in the stock market, where it receives a profitable return. The UAE and Trump both profit in the end, with Trump's cut being $168 million in profit. The same year, Trump announced he was selling meme coins, where customers purchased a form of cryptocurrency with no real product or service attached to it. Its only real value is the fun of sending Donald Trump money. Since it was announced, Donald Trump profited over $385 million from these sales. Another company of his, called Trump Media Technology Group, sold its stock at inflated prices, thanks to him being president. Then they used this inflated investment to invest in Bitcoin to hide the money. The company currently holds about $760 million in cash and $2.4 billion in Bitcoin. Donald Trump owns 42% of the company's stock, so if it ever sold, Trump would profit billions. In 2025, Donald announced Trump Mobile, which might be the most scary product he's ever introduced. You should know it's not really a mobile company, it's only a reseller. Trump collects your money and data, then resells you a service from a mobile virtual network operator, or MVNO, company called Liberty Mobile. This is similar to Mint Mobile, Cricket Wireless, Metro, and other companies. Basically, Trump Mobile and Liberty Mobile don't own any of their own towers. They piggyback off of T-Mobile towers to sell you the service. Reportedly, Liberty Mobile was founded in 2018, and its address just happens to be in a Trump condo in Florida, a condo with many other Trump businesses registered to it. But it apparently doesn't have any employees or payroll records. It sat dormant for 7 years until suddenly it was the service provider for Trump Mobile. To sign up for Trump Mobile, you have to put in your current cell phone's IMEI number to check if it's compatible. That's the International Mobile Equipment Identity Number. And this allows them to track your current cell phone anywhere you go and track whatever you do. So even if you don't sign up and pay their fees, they already have your current data on your current cell phone. Maybe that's why those who purchased the $500 cell phone Trump was offering them were never given a delivery date, and many of them are still waiting for any phone to arrive. Those who have received a phone in the mail got a refurbished older iPhone 14 or 15. For the record, Apple is currently selling the iPhone 17, so you're getting a phone that's 3 generations behind. For those who purchased the $47.45 per month plan, they were promised a phone capable of getting your blood pressure and heart rate simply by using the phone's camera. It's a feature no phone in the world is capable of doing without any Bluetooth devices. But even the US Congress, controlled by Republicans at the time, were frightened by this data collection. They even cited Trump's obvious ties to German political activist Peter Thiel and his data collection company Palantir Technologies. Republican Congress members wrote a report to T-Mobile, trying to stop Trump from getting tower data on every American. So far, Congress has not received a response to this report from Trump Mobile or T-Mobile, a company that has donated to Trump in the past. And so far, Donald Trump has received over $630 million in royalties, while those who purchase the service are getting old iPhones. During his second term in office, Donald Trump put tariffs on nearly every country on Earth, including a territory that is only inhabited by penguins, with no humans ever living there. But these tariffs are paid for by American consumers when companies pass along their cost of importing items to the United States. In 2025, these tariffs cost US taxpayers over $1,200 per person, meaning they've cost us $417.6 billion in just 1 year. In late 2025, it was announced that TAE Technologies merged with Trump Media for $6 billion. Now you might be wondering what those companies do. Trump Media controls his social media platform, Truth Social. TAE Technologies promises to one day create nuclear fusion power. Currently, nuclear plants make power by splitting atoms in half, in a process called nuclear fission. The technology does exist to put atoms together and create nuclear fusion, but it's nowhere near a net positive. Basically, the amount of power put in to fuse atoms together is far greater than the power they get out of that fusion. But no one really knows what a nuclear company that has no real product yet and won't have a product for another couple of decades at least is doing merging and giving money to a social media platform. The only reason financial experts can take an educated guess on here is that they are trying to bribe Donald Trump with a $6 billion bribe. In 2025, Donald Trump handed out over 1,600 presidential pardons. It's the most amount of pardons since Andrew Johnson in 1869, who gave out pardons to Confederate soldiers for the Civil War. 1,500 of Trump's pardons went to forgiving the treason his supporters did on January 6, 2021, but almost all of the remaining 100 went to rich people. If you want to get your case for a pardon heard by Trump, he is charging $1 million per person to hear their cases. Then he charges you more if your pardon is actually granted. Most of these people committed financial crimes and still owe money to the government or their victims. The U.S. House Judiciary Committee, led by Republicans, have reported these pardons Trump has granted in 2025 have forgiven over $1.3 billion in fines and restitution owed to the victims. Overall, 2025 was the year of the settlement, though. Being president has allowed Trump to get bribed from every direction. He threatens to withhold funding from something and suddenly demands that organization pay a settlement to him to release that money. The mafia used to call this exact same action blackmail or extortion, but legally, we have to call it a settlement. In 2025, Donald Trump has personally demanded and or received settlements from all of the following organizations: $1.2 billion from UCLA, $500 million from Harvard University, $221 million from Columbia University, $125 million from Kirkland and Ellis Law Firm, $125 million from Latham and Watkins Law Firm, $125 million from A&O Shearman Law Firm, $125 million from Simpson, Thatcher and Bartlett Law Firm, $100 million from Cadwalader, Wickersham and Taft Law Firm, $100 million from Milbank Law Firm, $100 million from Skadden Arps Law Firm, $100 million from Wiki Farr and Gallagher Law Firm, $40 million from Paul Weiss Law Firm, $36 million from Paramount CBS, $25 million from Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, $24.5 million from YouTube, $16 million from Disney and ABC, and $10 million from Twitter. In total, Trump has demanded and received more than $2.97 billion from settlements in 2025 alone. Most frustrating of all, Donald Trump never even paid the legal bills to sue those organizations to get that money. In September 2025, it was revealed that large law firms including Paul Weiss Law Firm, Kirkland and Ellis Law Firm, and Skadden Arps Law Firm, all of which were on that list, provided Trump tens of millions of dollars worth of legal services for free. Basically, each one of them sued other organizations on that list to get a settlement for Donald Trump. Then Donald turns around and used another law firm on that list to sue them in return and get a settlement. It's infuriating and just shows that Donald Trump will not stop just because he gets one settlement. We would like to note that we likely missed a few transactions along the way. From when he was born in 1946 to his first year of his second term as president in 2025, there were likely hundreds of more transactions through various bank accounts. Just in the time it took us to make this documentary, Donald Trump banned DJI, a private company, from selling drones and other camera equipment right after the Trump family invested in a drone company. Funny enough, that company immediately got a $620 million contract with the Department of Defense, and DJI would have been the only competitor for that contract. Donald Trump also took about 400 flights between Washington, D.C. and his home in Florida, which cost taxpayers more than $481.6 million. And while we were editing this film, Trump invaded Venezuela, kidnapped their president, called himself their new leader, and took control of their oil drills. But in doing so, Trump decided he alone should be in control of the money. So he wrote himself a check for $3 billion and says he will control the sale of any Venezuelan oil from here on out. Overall, we tracked 181 transactions throughout Donald Trump's life. Across these transactions, Trump supporters have paid nearly $7.9 billion on his behalf and never got anything in return. Trump and his companies have reportedly profited nearly $24 billion from those transactions, and he still owes billions to investors, contractors, banks, taxpayers, and his own family members. But across the transactions we could find, the overall cost to US taxpayers so far is at least $8,469,809,912,993.61.
And we are going to make our country great again.
According to the International Monetary Fund, that's more than the entire gross domestic product, or GDP, of the bottom 216 out of 218 countries and territories worldwide. If you combine the national debt of every country and territory on Earth, you would find that according to the United Nations Trade and Development Reports in 2025, the world is in $102 trillion of debt. One man, Donald Trump, is responsible for 8.3% of that. To put this in some context, if the United States government woke up tomorrow and decided to give housing to every homeless person across the country for the next 100 years, then they decided to pay off every penny of medical debt that every American owes. Finally, they decide to feed every adult and child who goes hungry, so no person would ever starve in any country or territory on Earth for the next 100 years. They could do all of that 26 times over before it cost us the same amount Donald Trump stole. As much as we would like to blame Donald Trump for every penny of that $8 trillion, the truth is not so simple. Hundreds of federal, state, and local elected officials let this happen. They either took a bribe to end an investigation, or they issued a court order for Trump to pay his debts, but never followed through. The Republican National Committee, or RNC, is responsible here too. When they had the opportunity to put forward a better candidate, they chose not to. When they had the chance to impeach and remove him from office 2 times in his first term, they chose to keep him in power. Just because Republicans are to blame doesn't make Democrats innocent. Donald Trump's rise to power and his dictator-like moves are also partly to blame on the Democratic National Committee too. They chose candidates without really asking the voters who they wanted as president. Many have accused the DNC of wanting career politicians like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris to be president, simply because they put in their time and were next in line. Even in their own report published in 2017 after Hillary Clinton lost, the DNC partly admits their main push for people to vote for Hillary was simply because she was not Donald Trump. It's been a long time since the DNC gave us someone to vote for instead of just voting against the other guy. And that's been a key reason many Democrats stay home on election days. But this is also the fault of the millions of people who voted in favor of Donald Trump. In 2016, his supporters said that he was an outsider and a businessman. By that point, he already bankrupted casinos, which is genuinely hard to do, and ripped off thousands of investors, contractors, and his own family. Still, 62.9 million people voted for him anyway. Then he got into office and made billions from taxpayers. He played golf while his supporters had to start collecting food stamps. The citizens he swore an oath to protect were dying of COVID-19, but he told them to inject bleach and take a UV enema. But still, his support grew, and 74.2 million people voted for him anyway. Then he committed treason and tried to overthrow the United States government entirely. He pushed his audience to hang and murder his own vice president. He went on to make billions of more dollars while saying he's going to solve all the problems that he created in his first term. He put tariffs on penguins, said he supported Russia, and still his support grew. This time, 77.3 million people voted for him, despite everything illegal he's done so far. It's on all of us that we let this happen. Not a single American who has ever cast their ballot for Donald Trump or shared a post on social media from a Russian bot is innocent here. Maybe they stayed at home from an election because they felt disparaged, or said their husband was voting on their behalf because their religion tells them that women's voices should be silent. All of them are accomplices to the largest robbery in world history. For the record, even if you held Donald Trump accountable and somehow forced him to pay every penny he has ever owed every single contractor, bank, or investor, he would still have made more than a $12 billion profit from the presidency. Trump has some pretty good accounting firms working for him though. In fact, out of all the people who have sued Donald Trump for money that he owes them, it seems accounting firms never have a need to sue Donald Trump. It appears that accounting firms are always paid on time. But any accounting firm working for him would know that this money is all subject to confiscation if the government ever charged Donald Trump with a RICO charge. A Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act charge allows the federal government to claw back every penny someone got from activities such as fraud, extortion, bribery, drug dealing, or money laundering. Legal experts might have alarm bells going off throughout this audit. Even if you're not a prosecutor, you might realize some of the things that Donald Trump has done could be tried for fraud, extortion, bribery, or money laundering. But most of the money we found going to the Trump family is never reported on his personal income tax forms to the IRS. So it's not like Trump is hoarding all of this money in a bank account somewhere. We know for a fact that the Trump family has foreign bank accounts. Many governments that do not work with the IRS or DOJ for investigations have given Donald Trump money in the past. So it's not unreasonable to think that he might have a bank account there too. Most importantly, we know for a fact that Donald Trump has multiple cryptocurrency companies to hold his money in. Remember, the main draw of cryptocurrency is that no government entity on Earth regulates it. This means any money that's hidden in a cryptocurrency company is not able to be seized in a RICO conviction. So even if the US government finally held Trump accountable and convicted him of a RICO charge, we may not ever see the money again. So if we cannot get the money back from Donald Trump himself, who can we claw the money back from? If you were to make those 77.3 million Americans who voted for him responsible for the amount that he cost taxpayers, each of them would owe over $109,107, and most of his supporters make less than $50,000 per year, so it would take them years to pay off. If you live in the United States and you're wondering how much Donald Trump has cost you personally, we can figure that out too. As of 2025, there are 347 million people living across the USA. This means each American would be responsible for $24,287, but not everyone in America pays taxes. So we ran those numbers too. 13.62% of the population works for the federal, state, or local governments across the country. While they pay taxes on their wages, all the money they receive is taxpayer money, so it's not new money to the system. Another 49% of the population receives money from some form of government assistance. Finally, 21.3% of the population is under 18 years old. You start to realize pretty quickly that only 16.07% of the US population pays more in taxes into the system than they get out. This means for the 55.8 million people who make up that 16%, we're responsible for $151,098 each just for the money that Donald Trump cost us. In the 19th century, salesmen would go town to town selling mineral oil, cow fat, or a mix of other substances. They promised it would cure all ailments, provide miraculous results, and then skip town before customers caught on. In 1906, regulations were put in place to stop snake oil salesmen from ever doing it again. And that's what we need in 2026. Not just for the money to be paid back, but strict regulations, an overturn of Citizens United, and laws put in place so we can keep Donald Trump from continuing his grift on the world for the next few years, and stop anyone else from doing the same thing ever again. Because in the words of one contractor that's now bankrupt, Donald Trump gets everybody.
Believe me.
his castle on shifting sand, with paper walls and a sleight of hand. Promises crumble like dust in the air, yet they bow, they kneel, they don't seem to care. A golden cage, a hollow prize, they see the calm but close their eyes. King of the grave, he takes and he takes, spinning his tails, leaving truth in the wake. The poorer they are, the louder they sing. Hail to the thief who would call himself king. The emperor struts in a suit of deceit, while they trade their dreams for scraps at his feet. His laughter echoes a mocking sound, but they'll never pull the curtain down. King of the grave, he takes and he takes, spinning his tails, leaving truth in the wake. The poorer they are, the louder they sing. Hail to the thief who would call himself king. I was raised to shake her hand, look folks in the eye and stand for the flag, for the farm, for the truth we swear by. Not for some rich man on TV selling fear like a remedy, pointing fingers at my neighbors while he grins and lies. So I'm out on the front porch of freedom, saying enough, we don't need him. You don't get to wear that office like a crown. You spit on the weak and the wounded, call it law, call it God like you mean it, but you ain't fit to lead this little country town. Impeach that man, send him packing, shut him down. Yeah, impeach that man, send him packing, shut him down. He sneers at two folks holding hands like their love X's plans. Talks real big about family while he tears theirs apart. Laughs along with every slur, treats my sister less than dirt, like her worth is how she looks, not her work or hard. You talk about real Americans and you turn your guns on them, call the crowd your enemies for asking you why. You bark orders from a stage, stoke that hate, feed that rage, while your shadows circle children and it chills my spine. So I'm out on the front porch of freedom, saying enough, we don't need him. You don't get to wear that office like a crown. You spit on the weak and the wounded, call it law, call it God like you mean it, but you ain't fit to lead this little country town. Impeach that man, send him packing, shut him down. Yeah, impeach that man, send him packing, shut him down. Golden ropes that drag the dirt, a hollow laugh, a kingdom heard. He counts the coins, he stacks the shame. Tiny hands play a giant's game. The throne is high, but the love is low. A heart so cold, no warmth to show. Tiny crown, empty throne. He takes the gold, but dies alone. He cries for love, they only groan. Oh, tiny crown, empty the poor man's bread, the widow's tear. He hoards them all, feeds on their fear. And there are cracks, his face looks small. A king who builds no bridge at all. The throne is high, the silence grows. He wants their hearts, but no one knows.